Hello, guys, and welcome to Everything Comic Books Q&A, but really it's just a Q&A about Slice of Life, our webtoon. So I'm going to pass it on to Phil as I share our video on Facebook to tell us a little bit about Slice of Life and why we're here.
Hey everyone, so we're here to talk about Slice of Life, our webtoon. We launched last week. It follows a gritty anime protagonist, Lady Vengeance, who is brought to life in the real world and has to learn how to function in everyday society, and she falls in love with a kind-hearted high school cheerleader. We just finished the first chapter today, which was released in 5 installments, and we're really excited to talk about it. And any comic-related questions that you guys have for us, we're really excited to field.
For sure. We're stoked to talk about this and get it rolling. I am still sharing, so if you want to introduce yourself, Phil, go for it.
Sure, everyone. So I'm Phil Falco. I am the co-writer of Slice of Life, which is why we're here. I'm also the writer of Haunting comic. It's been on Kickstarter. You may have seen it in the past year and a half. We're 3 issues in. And I'm the assistant editor on Bi Visibility, a bisexual anthology, which is one of Kat's other projects that's coming up next month. So definitely something you should check out.
For sure. And if you guys don't know me, if you're from like the webtoon, I'm Kat. I also write Bi Visibility. I write like Follow Like Daughter. Also, They Call Her Dancer. I write for Newsarama. I've written for IGN and Fandom and DC Comics. So I've been around the block. Done a lot in comics. Obviously, we're filming this on Comic Uno. So that means, I've been doing YouTube videos for a very long time. And that's kind of the gist. Am I missing anything?
No, that was a long laundry list of your of things that you've done.
And I probably am missing something, and that's an even longer laundry list. But we're super excited to talk about the webcomic. I have one more place to share it, and then you guys have my full attention to see what type of comments we've gotten, if we've gotten any so far. And just ask us questions. That's what we're here for, to talk about the webtoon. Maybe webtoon in particular would be fun. All right, I'm getting off Facebook, and we are going to check. So we have Jimmy, we have 10 viewers, so thank you. We have 11 now. Jimmy says, hey, guys. Jimmy is a great supporter. We love Jimmy. Thank you for coming on. Mike says, have you guys seen Umbrella Academy or Doom Patrol yet? I know you watched like the first couple episodes of that. And I've only watched like the pilot of Doom Patrol.
I've watched all of Doom Patrol. Love Doom Patrol. Umbrella Academy, I saw the first season. I got to get to the second season. I see why you'd compare them. Very similar, tone, I would say. Yeah, I like them both a lot. I think I like Doom Patrol a little bit better, but I also haven't seen all of Umbrella Academy.
We'd also love creating comics. So if you guys have questions about creating comics or webtoon, we'd really like to answer those. So I guess let's jump in and talk about why the hell we made this webtoon and what webtoon is, if you guys, don't know. So what's webtoon? Why did we want to do this?
Yeah, so both Kat and I have experienced self-publishing comics and crowdfunding through Kickstarter, traditional comics, but Webtoon is a platform for mobile sharing of comics rather than in a sequential page. It's a scroll format, panel to panel, and it's been gaining popularity over the past couple of years. I think at this point there's more readership for Webtoon comics, for web comics, than there is for traditional comics for the traditional market. So it's definitely something that's been on our radar for a while. There's a lot of like really popular romance and slice of life comics, especially in those genres. So it's something that Kat and I have been particularly interested in. And for a while, we'd always say like, oh, we gotta try this. We gotta, if we find a story to tell, this is like a medium that we got to break into. And lo and behold, here we are. A couple of months ago, we cracked the story for Slice of Life, and really excited to share this first chapter and onward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you were saying, I remember the day we were just like, man, Webtoons is such an interesting place, because we've seen traditional comics try to break into it, but usually it's just like reprinting their comic, and they're like, oh, well, I guess we'll try to do it for Webtoon. But a big thing that we did, and it's cool to see some new people. I'm going to say hi to you guys in a second. The reason we did Slice of Life is that we wanted to marry both traditional and Webtoon. It wasn't just particularly for the Webtoon audience, but wasn't just particularly for traditional, because our plan is to collect this on Kickstarter, which is what we're more familiar with. So we are gonna, I guess, announce that we'll have a Kickstarter in October to collect chapters 1 through 4, and we are wrapped with 1 through 3 actually. So 3, we just literally today got the last pages for pencils for that, and it's $2 letterer now, and chapter 2's been done lettering wise and already set up for Webtoon. And then once we're done with chapter 4, we're going to do the Kickstarter. And what's cool about the Kickstarter, I've announced this somewhere else, I'll announce it here. We have a 4-page story that is actually the future. So it's exclusive to the Kickstarter, exclusive to the physical book. Do you want to expand? I don't want to say too much about it, but Phil, do you want to tease anything about that?
Yeah, the slight tease. So, it's a story that takes place a couple of years in the future from where we're at. If you read the most recent episode that went up today of Slice of Life, Yuriko, the Lady Vengeance herself, was just brought to life, just met Lucy. But, if you support the Kickstarter, you'll get to see a story that takes place a couple of years from now when their relationship has grown, we'll say. So we'll definitely talk more about that. We'll definitely talk more about that as we get closer to October, which we're targeting for our Kickstarter. But we're really excited. We like Kat said, we have 3 chapters in the can now, and we just feel like each one keeps outdoing the last. It's very excited to continue to share it.
For sure. We got new type JB Lee who says, hey, hello.
Hello.
We have Chris Lincoln says Nickelodeon, the Loud House movies. I didn't realize the comment until I heard it.
Are there Loud House movies?
There's going to be one in August. So I'll be reviewing it, guys. Don't worry. Sorry. Took me off guard, but I appreciate the Loud House comments. We got T says, I agree, y'all. I'm not a comic book person, but I love me some Webtoons. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the big point, is just to tell a story in a different medium and hopefully reach a different audience. I also see that we got some Facebook comments. Cody Scott says hi. Andrew says hi as well. So thank you for joining us. And then Jimmy asks, Haunting issue 4. What's going on with Haunting?
Yeah, Haunting issue 4. It's in production right now. I think we're looking at like February 2022 is when that we're going to launch the Kickstarter for that. But, really exciting. It's the conclusion to our first arc. So a lot of explosive things happening in this issue. I'm really excited to start promoting it in a couple of months.
Yeah, I am a big fan of what's going to happen in this issue. That's all I'll say. And I've been waiting for a long time to read it completely and being done. So I'm very excited for this issue. And I would say, if you like Slice of Life, you might like some parts in Haunting, right? You could say that, right?
That's just ominous enough to work.
So I guess going into Slice of Life, let's talk about the characters. Like, if people don't really know what this book's about, we're trying to get people to read it, which we should give the link to Slice of Life. So if you guys could go check it out. We just posted a new episode. So that the next episode will be going up on Monday. Oh, we got Mimi also let's ask her question first, and then we'll get into characters. So Mimi says, what's been the biggest difference between doing a Webtoon comic versus the regular comics you guys do? Is it the chapter breakdowns in multiple parts, or is it the writing? That's a great question.
That's a great question. For it. Yeah, I could take this one. So I think one thing that, and there's all different kinds of Webtoon. I don't want to generalize, but I think in terms of what the audience, like the general audience, is looking for from Webtoon, I think it's a lot more like character driven, and a lot more character driven than plot driven. I'll say, there are a lot of Webtoon that are really just about like the daily lives of their characters, or even the more plot driven ones, they'll have chapters that'll just kind of meander for a second just to check in with the characters, see how they feel about whatever big things are happening. So, part of the reason we were attracted to telling this particular story through Webtoon is it's literally all about getting a life. It's about a anime character coming to life and having to figure out who she is and where she fits into a world where her purpose isn't defined for her. And it just seemed like really perfect, just, be able to tell a chapter. We have a chapter coming up that I can spoil slightly, where it's, it's just, they go to the mall and they go shopping and she buys clothes for the first time. And, it's,
and her clothes look nice.
and her clothes look nice. But, like there's room for like a lot of genre play in it. They're in the mall, but there's some action in there. There's plenty of comedy. And, there's some romance because it's a romance story. So I would say in terms of the writing, it's definitely like, a freedom to just spend time with your characters. In terms of
it's also not a freedom, I feel too, because like it's hard to balance, because with our book it is character driven, but it is also plot driven. So, and that's what's been fun, because like we've had questions like, why is this called Slice of Life? Is this actually a slice of life book? And it's actually like the analysis of what a slice of life genre is, and that's, slice of life means nothing's really happening, it's day to day, and we really wanted to say like, well, what does that mean? What is life? I know that's like such a big question, but that was honestly what we really want to ask, especially from a point of view of fictional character. Like, what is storytelling, and how do we compare that to real life?
Yeah, exactly. It's literally about learning how to live everyday life. If you're a TV character, every episode, should further the plot, further the character, and we still have to do that, obviously, because we're telling a story. But it's about learning what to do with the small moments, the moments where you're not hunting down your mortal enemy and avenging your boyfriend's death. It's an analysis of what it means to live your life and figure out who you are. And I think you do that in the little moments, in the day to day, just as much as you do in the big moments. And that's the thing that we're most excited to explore, I would say.
And I think I expand on that too. What's been really different about writing this is that this is completely us writing together. Like, we, from the beginning, plotted this together and like created this together. So it's also kind of hard to answer that question, because all the other books we wrote were always like somewhat by ourselves. Even the crossover, it was foundations of our other books. So I think it's a little harder to say if it was different or not. I guess the thing is, having cliffhangers within your book, even though that's already a traditional comic thing, like every page turn should have some sort of cliffhanger to make you want, to turn the next page. But you really need to know your breaks, because, we write it in a way in a traditional comic form. So we're writing like half an issue each chapter. So like the first chapter was like 11 or 12 pages, and we released that in 5 parts. So knowing where to break things is really important.
Yeah, what's really interesting about that is that we always kind of knew that we were going to, or I should say we didn't know right from the beginning, but we always toyed around with the idea that we were going to break our individual chapters into smaller parts, into 2 to 3 page episodes. But at least writing those first like 2 chapters, I would say we weren't very consciously saying like, this is going to be our breaking point. We were saying every page needs to be important. We need to have these cliffhanger moments, but they just kind of naturally unfolded as we were telling the story. We had episode 4, the 4th part of our first chapter that aired on Monday ended on like a really big cliffhanger, and we definitely saw great response to that. Like a big uptick in comments on the Webtoon, and I think that's just a testament to knowing where to break your story and where to like pause for a second before you come back with the next part. So we got a lot more exciting twists and cliffhangers coming up that as we continue to write more chapters, it's something we need to be really conscious of as well.
For sure. And we've plotted up to chapter like 12, I think, right now. We're up to like
we've plotted to 16, I think, actually.
16. Wow. So there you go. We've plotted a lot, and we've written about
8 chapters, which
8 chapters.
I think that works out to like 30 something installments, because we break each chapter up into at least a couple of episodes. So it's a lot of content that's been written and that's already in the can, and we're charging forward and with what's to come.
Yeah, and that was definitely important to us, is just sitting down and plotting and making sure everything flows correctly, no matter what turned out of this Webtoon. Like we wanted to make sure there was good ending points, and especially for each issue, because again, we're trying to marry traditional with Webtoon. So we wanted cliffhangers again for each little chapter, but then how do you make the traditional people want to read your comic? Like also like what makes Webtoon people want to read traditional comics? So that was kind of like a big thing I guess we're still kind of discussing is how do you do that? And we've come up with really, again, having the 4-page story and doing maybe something we'll have a lot of fun with too, is just like seeing the future. And I think as a queer reader, like I like seeing that. Like I want to, like, I think my biggest gripe and one of the things I guess we discuss is like, oh, you never really get to see like your leads together. And that's something we definitely didn't want to do here. We wanted our leads to feel like they're getting into a relationship. And I guess that's something we could say is that, you know, we're hoping not to tease you guys too much. We're really mindful of the pacing of the book. I don't know if you'd agree on that, but
yeah, no, I would say that it's a fine line to walk. You don't want to put if you're writing a romance, or if romance is a key aspect of your story, you don't want to put your characters together too quickly. You want it to be earned. You want it to be natural. You, the reader, want to be with the characters as they realize their feelings and, you know, eventually become an item, become a relationship together. But at the same time, like Kat said, it's a big tendency with queer stories, with your Yuri and your yaoi stories, to kind of drag it out, kind of just make obstacles for the sake of obstacles. And, you know, that's something we're conscious of, something that we definitely don't want to do. So, you know, I hope you feel the same way when we get to that point. But I think we're very conscious of the pacing, and we're really building towards something that excites us as readers and as writers.
for sure. We have a question on Facebook. Andrew asks, have you ever looked at Tapas or Tomix, TOOMICS, or other Tumix?
Yeah.
Or other webcomic sites? Yeah, we're on Tapas as well. We just been kind of focusing on Webtoon a little bit more, but we do promote on Tapas and we post on there. But those are the only two we're posting on right now. Yeah. Definitely keep continuing with the questions, guys. We really appreciate it. But what I was going to do before is just kind of like dig into the characters and like, I guess, dig into why we told this story in the first place. I mean, we talked about like why we did Webtoon, but like why this story? Why now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, you know, like we said before, Webtoon is always something that was on our radar. That was like something that we wanted to break into. And, you know, I remember you sitting on my couch saying, you know, man, we got to break into Webtoon. You know, we should think about like what kind of story would really benefit from that format, from a weekly release and from like, you know, shorter installments versus, you know, kickstarting a full 20-something page issue every couple of months. And, you know, this story about, you know, an anime character, you know, coming to life, just kind of, you know, something that was rattling in my head. And, you know, you really helped me to, you made it come to life. You know, I had a very, very loose concept, and then, you know, you helped me build out exactly who Lady Vengeance is. And then, you know, we developed Lucy and her sister Raven, Lucy being the romantic lead and Raven being her sister. And, you know, I think that's a good segue to talk about the characters, actually. So
yeah, and I actually wanted to talk about Raven first because, you know, what you were just kind of reminding me of is that when Raven started, she was really two-dimensional, and we wanted it to be that. Like, we're like, oh, it'd be interesting if she just really likes this anime, and that's it. Like, that's her character. And then as we got into it more, we're like, wait, we could do this and that and that. And she's become one of our most fleshed out characters, which has been really cool to see. Like, she does the things she does for a reason.
Yeah. I think for anyone who hasn't read, you know, Raven is, like I said, the sister of Lucy, one of our two romantic leads. And she's a super fan of Lady Vengeance, of the anime that our lead Yuriko comes from. And, you know, like Kat said, in the start, she was pretty two-dimensional. We had a very specific
on purpose too. Like, we did it on purpose. It wasn't just like, oh, we have a two-dimensional character. Like, we wanted her to be two-dimensional.
Yeah, but you know, Raven, she kind of just came into her own naturally. And, you know, I would honestly say, out of everything I've written, Raven's probably my favorite character to write. You know, I think that she's just so fun, and, you know, like, you know, there's a lot to her. You know, she's hysterical to start with. You know, everything she says, I pretty much laugh at reading and writing. But, you know,
and
there's
even
also
looking at the drawings, like sometimes like I didn't know that scene's gonna be funny, and then we have we just finished the mall chapter, like art wise, and there's a scene that she's just literally in the background. I'm like, that's so funny.
Yeah, it's in the script. It's just a note, like Raven's in the background looking for some other character, and then just like our artist, shout out to Val Perry, just every time she has to draw Raven, she finds a way to make it hilarious. She just really, she really gets all the characters, but Raven, she really gets the comedy there, and we're really thankful for that. So yeah, getting back to what's great about Raven, I think she has the comedy, but something Kat and I are really excited to share is like the depth to Raven. Like who is she outside of just being like this anime super fan? And that's something that Raven, I don't think it's a spoiler to say she kind of has a chapter of her own all to herself coming up soon, which is one of my personal favorite chapters. And there are little nuggets in each of the upcoming chapters that kind of help show you who she is and where she's going. So really excited
for
to share
sure. And I think that's for all the characters. So that's Raven. She's the twin sister of Lucy. And then Lucy is our main character, or the co-lead. And she's the twin sister of Raven, and she's popular cheerleader girl. And I mean, we've already teased this in Meet the Characters, but she's struggling with her sexuality, I think we could say. Like, that's definitely something that's going on. And it's not her only story, but it's a big part of her story. And I don't want to go any farther on that because you'll see her journey. But it's the thing we already teased in Meet the Characters. So a beautiful anime girl coming to life is not going to make things easier for her.
I think one of what's most exciting to me about Lucy is she's on the surface this person who seems like she has it all. She has it all figured out. She's popular. She's nice. She's comfortable in life. It seems like she has it all. But she puts a lot of pressure on herself, and she has a lot of her own struggles. Like Kat said, she's trying to figure herself out, and part of that's her sexuality, but kind of all aspects of herself. She I don't want to spoil anything that's coming up, but I will just say that when she's with Yuriko, I don't want to spoil anything. I'm just going to say that she's confident and comfortable when she's with other people, but it's a shame she can't apply it to herself, that comfort and confidence.
Yeah, it's so interesting because we'll go into Yuriko's story, but they both don't really know who they are, from a different angle. And that's kind of the whole idea, slice of life, learning what life is about. And, that goes into Yuriko. So Yuriko is this, so you saw this all in the first chapter where she's this badass action anime character, but we'll tease that we learn in the as the webcomic goes, it actually wasn't a good anime. She's not a fleshed out character. So that means when she comes into this life, she really needs to figure out who she is because the writer didn't do it for her. So that's a big part of her story, is just figuring out who she is.
Yeah, I think one thing that was really cool that the readers on Webtoon who commented on the episodes picked up on was, we had a kind of throwaway line. It's easily dismissed as like as just like a joke, like as a comedic beat that Yuriko's anime ended, or was supposed to end a year prior to the events of the series, but fans petitioned to keep the story going and to keep telling it, and I think that kind of shows in the quality of the show, of the anime, and the ending that it has, which both of the sisters have negative feelings towards, but for very different reasons. If you read if you read episode 5, you'll see. But it's something that we're really interested to see. Just what if you're not just an anime character who comes back to life, but maybe not the most fleshed out, or maybe the anime character whose arc didn't end in the way that made sense with the story that was being told. It's an undercurrent for sure already in the first chapter, but it's definitely something that we're pretty excited to explore going forward, and give Yuriko some existential crises outside of the ones that would naturally come with just being a fictional character brought to life.
And also someone who has died. There's definitely someone who has died. So there's definitely a lot of things to explore there. So, all three are very fleshed out, which we're so excited for you guys to see. We do have other characters introduced as well, which we won't talk about. But chapter 3, there's a particular character that's introduced that's going to be very important to the story. So get ready for that if you like new characters. And we'll also get to see Lucy and Raven's dad at some point. So we'll say that. Nothing further than that, but those are the characters you could. Nothing further. Those are characters you can look forward to. We have a couple of comments on Facebook as well. But I'm going to get to one on the YouTube, then we'll go to Facebook, YouTube. Dark World Studios. What inspired you to do the story and bring the character to life? Inspired. For me, I've read Yuri manga for a very long time. Like, it's just kind of my escapism towards other books I read for work. It's something I don't have to really review. It's something I enjoy. It's kind of fluffy. There's not much, depending on the Yuri you read, but a lot of times it's just like wholesome. It's like there's not a lot of plot that you have to follow. It's like, oh man, look at that big cliffhanger. It's just, just a romance story. So I liked it. And me and Phil wanted to do something queer. We had, did we have I think we had bi visibility before this, right?
Yeah, we did. But, we wanted to tell a queer story, bi visibility is an anthology and has some great stories in it, but we wanted an ongoing queer story, something we could develop over time. And, Yuri, obviously major inspiration, Kat loves her Yuri. I'm a fan of Yuri as well. I've been reading a lot recently, especially, as we're developing Slice of Life, and that's both girl love and boy love. We both love queer stories, but we want to kind of avoid some of the pitfalls you see in romance stories, but like especially queer romance stories. And I would say we've promoted it as such, but I also am a big fan of like the isekai genre, and I really like the idea of just flipping it on its head, having the fictional character come to the real world versus having a real, I shouldn't say real, but a character go to a fantasy or fictional world. It's someone from our world. So, it's kind of exciting to turn that on its head and tell a very character-driven story in that regard.
For sure. So a Facebook question we have from Kareem Roberts: how do you guys feel about politics in comics? Luckily enough, I feel like every book has politics. I believe that we should have politics in books, but it should be organically put into the book and should be necessary for the book. I guess turning that into Slice of Life, is there any politics in this book?
I think it depends on your definition of politics. If you think a queer relationship is political, I would argue that you're wrong. But if you're making that argument, then yeah, it's political in that it's representing a minority group. I'm of the same opinion as you, Kat, that politics that fit the story, that come naturally out of the story you're telling, they not only should be in comics, but they kind of need to be. Otherwise, you're telling a story about nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100% agree. Like, I think we'll definitely talk about queer identity in this book for sure. Like, because this whole book is about identity past just your queerness. It's about like, who am I as a person? So of course, in a queer love story, we're gonna
growing up,
deal with that.
Not only who am I now, but who am I going to be? As a fictional character, figure out who I am, but also as a teenager who's growing up and has to figure out what they want to do with their lives and what kind of person they want to be. There's a lot of struggles that come with that. Some of them, I'm sure, have political undertones, but I think when we go into writing the story and plotting future chapters, that's not the first question we ask ourselves usually.
For sure. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to New Type JB who gave us $2. So thank you for that super sticker. We also have T who asked, were you always thinking of bringing an action anime character to life? Yeah, that was definitely always the point. That was like from day one. That's what Phil kind of brought. Like, oh, I want to bring an anime character to life.
I remember I said like I want a really like gritty, dark, like Sasuke type is what I said. I think during that like first meeting we had about it, and then just like someone who definitely would need to do some learning in the real world, who comes from like just like a really dark background. And I think we brightened up Yuriko a little bit from the original idea, but I think it's much to her benefit. You know, I think she feels more real as a character, and like less just a caricature and exaggeration in the anime that she comes from.
For sure. I mean, I think she still has this dark past, but
No doubt.
it's definitely more of just a person who just doesn't know what's going on. You know, I think that's kind of the place we kind of take her. And trust me, in a comedic way, we definitely take the action side of things. We like, I mean, she's still a girl who knows how to use a sword and wants revenge. And we definitely put comedic beats here and there for that. But we didn't want her to be defined by it either. We want her to be a person.
Yeah, exactly. You know, just to answer the question directly, I don't think we ever considered another genre of the anime. You know, I think the original pitch was always an action character. But yeah, did you ever at any point have a different genre you wanted the anime to be? Do you want to be like?
I don't think it would have made. No, I definitely didn't want a cooking anime. I don't know if that would have made sense for us. Yeah, no, I always loved the idea that it was an action anime. It took us a while to figure out like what exactly the action was. Like we knew she was an anime character that wanted revenge, but we didn't know if it was like a sword book or like we also like what's fun about writing this is that there was a moment that we actually had to sit down and ask ourselves like, what happened in this anime? So that was interesting because we're writing this story that is like, okay, what's going to happen next? But we have to like understand like where did Yuriko come from? So we took like a whole day to figure out like, what is this anime? Why does it suck?
Why does it suck? And you know that conversation was a big part of the anime. You know, maybe not being the best written anime. You know, we spent a lot of time just saying like, what if there was an episode where Yuriko climbed the tallest mountain to like, and you know, like try to find information about her arch nemesis, and just like, you know, coming up with like ridiculous. We called it Mount Altitude, and you know, like. You know, just coming up with kind of ridiculous, over-exaggerated like names and like phrases that we could like throw in the anime, and a lot of them snuck their way into the script. You know, through Raven's dialogue in particular, talking about her favorite moments, and you know, it's great for the comedic beats, but it's also really good for fleshing out the world. You know, the world that Yuriko comes from.
I want to give a shout out to Sleepy Reader, $15. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
that was so generous. Wow. Thank you. Keep on creating. That means a lot to us, truly. Absolutely. So thank you guys so much. Yeah, I think what's been really fun is to kind of figure out why the hell does Raven like this show? You know? Like, why does she like this thing that honestly kind of sucks? Like, and even like Lucy is trying to be super nice about it. Like we see that in chapter 1. She's like, yeah, like, you know, I get you like it. I'll sit with you. But like, why do you like this show? Why is this back? You know, I think that's been really fun of like why she's so obsessed with this show.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we definitely have some ideas that I don't want to spoil because they kind of tie into future chapters. But, you know, like you've said, we've given a lot of thought into what is it about this show in particular that resonates with Raven. And, you know, take even parking aside like the deeper meaning, the character-driven reason. I think, you know, part of it's just, you know, we all like cheesy things sometimes, you know, like there are things I'll watch or read that I know aren't necessarily good, you know, conventionally good, but you know, you love them for whatever reason. And I think that's one of the endearing things about Raven, that she doesn't see that Yuriko's anime is cheesy, that she doesn't see that it's like meandering, that it has not the greatest writing. And you know, I think Lucy, God bless her, you know, she like you said, she's gentle about it. She'll sit and watch it with Raven, and like she you know, she's not mean about it, and Raven takes her fandom to the next level.
That's definitely a big part. And one thing that I think was been such a pleasure to write these two characters, and something I'm so glad that commenters have already noticed, is that we wanted to tell a story about real sisters. You know, we could have really made a whole story about this popular girl. And that's something like when we promoted that this was a cheerleader, people were like, oh my God, she's going to be like a bitch and she's going to be a generic cheerleader. And I said, no. Like, we want to make her a real person. And that's something we wanted to do with the relationship between Raven and Lucy, especially as twins. Like, I am personally a twin, which is why I made them twins. I'm like, I feel like an experience of a twin is different than just siblings. So I really wanted to tell that story as well. So yeah, I think that's been one of the most fascinating parts is navigating their relationship, even though they are so different.
Yeah. But there's definitely love there, and you could see it in the first chapter, and thankfully a lot of our readers have been picking up on it. Some of our most popular comments are just that they really like the interplay between them. It feels very natural, and I think that's part of that is just like the storytelling itself. We sat down and we said we want them to be twins, but their relationship was just kind of a natural consequence of the story that we were telling. Very little do we have to sit down and I shouldn't say very little, but it wasn't when we were writing. They just kind of figured out the relationship. We had the idea of where it was going, and it made sense with this story, who they are.
For sure. We have some comments on Facebook, so I'm gonna mention those. Kareem says, just want to say, Kat, been following your YouTube channel and work for a few years and just want to express my appreciation. Seen you at a few cons. My hat's off to you. Keep up the stellar work. Thank you so much. That really does mean a lot. Thank you, Kareem. Andrew asks, what are some of your greatest inspirations for this work? For this one, Yuri-wise was Girlfriends. I wanted to tell a story that was well-paced, and I feel like Girlfriends goes on for a little while, but once we do get to the meat of it, it's the most popular Yuri manga. It tells a story about these people that were just friends and becoming a bit more. So that was nice and something we really wanted to do. I didn't know as much about the genre that Phil was talking about for this anime. So I remember asking Phil point blank, I'm like, what is this anime based on? And you said Samurai Jack, and that really helped me out.
Yeah. I definitely, when we had that strategy session, when we sat down and tried to figure out what is the Sword of Lady Vengeance, I put together a list of a couple of, very plot driven and, darker, not just anime, but series in general, just to be kind of our mood board, let's say. And I think Samurai Jack is a big inspiration, I would say, visually. We keep saying the anime is poorly written. So I do not think Samurai Jack is poorly written. I think Samurai Jack is fantastic, but just in that vein of it's all this lead character, this sword wielding lead character, it's all the journey of this character as they try to accomplish their goals, whatever they may be. For Yuriko, it's getting revenge for her dead boyfriend. I think tonally and visually, we wanted to go. I said she was fan of a Sasuke type character, so we wanted that kind of revenge aspect, that kind of scorned and trying to very much living in the past, and then also the strong and silent type from Samurai Jack.
Yeah, it's nice that Yuriko talks a little more.
In the anime, she didn't talk much, but once she gets to the real world,
anime, she doesn't.
Yeah, I think she only has one line in the anime that we've seen so far, but in the real world, she'll talk a little more.
She's not like a talker, but she'll talk when needed. I'm going to scroll up. We have a lot of comments, so thank you guys. We have Marianne who says, do not mention citrus as an inspiration, Catherine. Citrus is an inspiration for a lot of things, and I do believe that, citrus is a little bit of an inspiration for sure. It's one of the most popular Yuris. Marianne, I do think you should read some more citrus. I think you should give it a try, give it a shot. She also says, I'm the greatest inspiration. There has to be one character in here that we inspire by you, because every other character we've written has supposedly been inspired by you. So we'll find something, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
So the next thing is new type. Thank you so much for $10. This is crazy. Thank you guys so much. What characters in the big two could be revealed to be bi or gay if you had a chance to write them? For me, I thought Kamala can be written as bi. I ship her and Zoe, but that's just my opinion. Hey, I love my girl Zoe a lot, so I would love that. I still would like to see Kitty Pryde more outwardly gay, or not gay, bi. Will not erase my girl Kitty. I don't know why I said gay. I would like to see her outwardly
bi visibility editor.
I know, I'm erasing people already. I would also like to see Tim Drake. Now that we're seeing that most recent story in Urban Legends, they're making it so obvious.
Yeah, no doubt. I remember when I was in high school, people talking about wanting Tim Drake to be gay or bi, and it was always something that really interested me. But now, it really seems like they're they're on the cusp of it, especially like in the past like month or two. So that would be great.
For sure. Comic Toby says I'm creating a queer comic called Barback. That's awesome. I think he added something else. Barback brings me joy and laughter, and I hope it does to everybody else. Well, I hope so too. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing it come to life for you.
Yeah, I think we've been getting better in recent years with telling, joyous queer stories. For a while, it was the stereotype that queer stories are tragic and sad. At least the sophisticated ones, quote unquote. But I think there's been a lot of, in the past like few years, a lot of embracing of more lighthearted queer stories, and not just the fluff. So that's awesome. Really looking forward to Barback.
For sure. Next up is from Jimmy. Phil, being the creator of Haunting, where do your ghosts get the power to hurt people?
I would say that in the world of Haunting, ghosts are kind of a natural occurrence. When you die, you leave something behind. Whatever. I always say it's like emotions. Like you have all of this like emotion and intensity inside of you, and then when you die, it kind of gets left behind and just festers there and literally haunts the area. And normally ghosts, that energy can't do anything, isn't strong enough to interact with the world around it until the lead character of Haunting, Bram, shows up and gives it that boost, that power, that jolt it needs to take form and hurt people. I think I look at ghosts as kind of like, in the world of Haunting, as like a natural, like very, like something that's part of the existing ecosystem that just needs a little bit of this needs an outside influence to interact with the world. Hope that answers your question.
We also have Super Mario, who asked, indie comics have made it to the internet streaming service. What would be a good one to make a series from? Slice of Life, I think, would be a nice one, right?
I think it would make a pretty good show.
I think so. So I'm going to go with Slice of Life on that. We have Andrew Lohr says, I'm excited about your Life Folly daughter. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And Andrew, if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them. New Type says, speaking of bats, how about Steph and Cass? Good vibes. I believe they would be an interesting couple, especially after Future State. Always. I would love to see that. I always said Steph and Cass had some bi vibes. So, yeah, I'd love to see that. There's not enough on-panel stuff with them, though.
No, but that's what you can change. That's what we got to change.
I think we should write it.
If Tim Drake can be queer, Steph can be queer. That's that'll give them even more to talk about.
They just talk about being bi. I would love that. I love
that's what you do. That's what we do. We just sit around and talk about being queer all day. We're just like, man.
That's our whole friendship, really. Like, we don't really talk about life. We just talk about being queer. It's pretty fun.
Once the wife was born, she was like, I tell Webtoon it's got to be queer.
I mean, that's what's kind of cool about, like, a lot of our friend group is queer, but, like, it's interesting to make a queer book and, like, make a queer cast, That's fun. You try to, like, bring what you have in real life and put it on the page. That's pretty cool. All right, we got T. Have you guys ever thought of Dreamcast for Slice of Life show? Oh man, honestly, no. I haven't really thought about it. It's so hard because I'm an oldster now. I don't really know all the teen actors.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say I'm not super in touch with like the younger actors we would cast. I will say that I'm trying to remember. I was trying to look up her name because it's escaped me for the moment. Whenever I was originally writing Yuriko, before we got art, my visual inspiration was it's Karen something. She was in Suicide Squad. She was Katana, and she's in The Boys as Kimiko. But
I think
she was really fun.
The one from that Netflix movie, the romance one, Laura. We literally have her referenced in the Meet the Characters that Lucy likes.
Right. The I forgot what the movie was called. Gosh, I'm really drawing a blank
to
on
all
names.
the boys. To all the boys.
No,
something.
No, maybe.
I love one of them. Marianne gave us the perfect casting of Hayden Panettiere.
You can play all of them.
I think she could play all of them. She might be a little old, but like we'll look over it. It'll be fine.
We'll de-age her with our technology.
I'm excited for that show. Maybe she'll voice all of them. So I picture Slice of Life as a cartoon.
Thank you, Tay. Karen.
Thank you. To all the boys I loved before, and there we go. That's what Mimi told us. Speaking of, we have a good amount of questions, but I'm going to answer Mimi's and then I'll go back up. I keep forgetting Steph is straight because in my mind she's been bi forever. Has writing this been a calming for you guys? To answer the first one, yeah, I always just like, unless you say you're straight, right? They're not straight just yet. She hasn't come out as straight yet.
How many characters actually come out as straight though, when you think about it?
I think that's what we need to change. I think one day, Spider-Man's got to go up to Mary Jane and be like, MJ, I have a secret. I'm straight.
Yeah, I think they'll go over real well. I think they'll get some GLAAD awards for that.
For sure. So Andrew says, at the end of the day, we all want to be loved and go through things no matter our preference in a relationship. I agree, Andrew. He also asks a question, so I'm going to go back up. Do you believe indie comics is becoming more popular than mainstream? I don't know about more popular, but because of the TV shows, I think it's really helping. Like The Boys and Walking Dead has been, popular shows, and Umbrella Academy, like people know what they are.
Yeah, no doubt. I think I definitely, you and I especially, definitely live in like a world where indie comics is like a big part of our lives, and we're exposed to them more than most people. But I definitely say just in the last few years, there's been a significant increase in like interest around like independent properties and like creator-owned properties. I wouldn't say that it's becoming more popular than the big two, but I think it's getting to a point where like it's not the only thing people are reading. The big two. You're not just looking for superhero stories, and you're not just looking at Marvel and DC.
Thank you for another $5. That's great. Thank you so much. Wow. New type JB Lee. Another Miss Marvel question thoughts. It's interesting nobody really ships Kamala and Bruno. For a lot of fans, the characters work better as friends. I'm not really a big fan of the ship for them. I'm definitely more of a fan of the friends, and I think that's why maybe they struggled a little bit with their current arc since they've been trying to bring romance into it. But I would like to see them as friends. I agree. I want more Miss Marvel. Can't wait for that show. I'm glad you're a big fan. A new type. They said 2021, so I'm guessing late 2021 if it is coming out 2021, which I'm very excited for. I've talked Phil's ear about Miss Marvel. I guess going into our slice of life again, definitely keep building up the questions, guys. We love it. What's been the most eye-opening experience for you, Phil? I have to also take a bathroom break as you answer that. What's been your eye-opening experience with Webtoon? Like, what have you learned since posting? I'll be back.
Yeah, I would say, like I said, I think a big difference between traditional comics and Webtoon is just the what the audience is looking for. A lot of the readers, like I said, are looking for those character-driven stories, and I think Webtoon is like a very vocal community. I think Kat and I both have a lot of experience with traditional comics and through Kickstarter. But something that's really cool about Webtoon, and I was telling Kat about this earlier, is just that you post an episode and you almost immediately get a response. You get like the comments section, you get people DMing you, just trying to theorize about, okay, what's going to happen next week, or like what was my favorite part of this, or just like that panel was really cool. It's you definitely get a response through comics released like in a more traditional format. There's definitely people who reach out and say I really like this or leave a comment, but like with Webtoon, it's like very vocal. It's a very like responsive community right away. I was texting Kat our latest episode today, posted at 6 p.m. and I texted her at 6:02. I was like, I can't believe we have 5 comments already. It's so exciting. And then
I literally just grabbed dinner and didn't even get to see it. I was like, man, what? That's crazy.
Yeah, I was sending her my favorites already. So if you're reading the Webtoon, definitely leave us a comment. We read them all. We really like seeing them. It just it's always great to see any sort of response to something that you put out there.
For sure. And thank you, Jimmy, for the
thanks,
$5.
Jimmy.
We really appreciate it. That
awesome.
Means a lot to us. So, we got more comments here. My comment is the best comment. Oh, for sure, Chi. You always bring us the best comments. comic, Toby says, well, my character from Bar Back is gay for pay till he meets a very rich man. Well, looking forward to reading it. Yeah. Andrew, how do you deal with criticism of slice of life comic? We actually haven't had any yet.
The only criticism I've seen is like, oh, it should be longer, which
yeah.
It's not a story criticism, so we're thankful. But
I guess we'll go to overall criticism because obviously we're people and we've gotten criticism for our work. It's just that Webtoon tends to be pretty nice in the comments for Canvas. So, we're lucky in that regard, but criticism in general, you hear it out, like you hear where it comes from, and no one's perfect. No story's perfect. No stories for everybody. So I think that's really important, is to hear everyone's thoughts, but also don't let it get to your head too much. I think there's definitely a balance when it comes to criticism.
Yeah, no doubt. I think there's, you got to recognize what's good faith criticism and what's bad faith criticism. And, nobody's infallible. Nobody's storytelling is perfect, and no story is perfect. And there's no such thing as, perfection in something subjective like storytelling. But, I could say I know Kat as well. Like, we're interested in hearing both the good and the bad opinions, the things that you wish were different. And, sometimes it's something to consider in like future stories. You can't change what you've already written, but it's something like to be mindful of going forward. So
I will say we did get one comment. This wasn't a criticism, but it was an interesting take where we posted the teaser and somebody was very adamant to wanting Raven to be the love interest. I'm like, well, it's too late to change that now. But I think the way we have it written is, the way we want to go.
Yeah, I remember that comment. It was before we really announced anything about the series, and they were just saying that they want the cheerleader to be a secret nerd. And then we said, oh, actually, there is a super fan character, the sister, and he was like, she should be with them. So with Yuriko, which that's fine. Everyone's welcome to their opinion, but I hope that that's an interesting story in and of itself. But, I hope that anyone who is looking for something in particular when they go into a story, expecting the plot to go a certain way, is always open to an alternate interpretation. I think the way that the story unfolds and the way that the characters interact as we have them, I think it's magic. I think it really works. So
also we enjoy writing. So I don't know if I would have had as much fun writing a Raven and Yuriko, because then it's also like this idea of like worship. Like, what's fun about Lucy and Yuriko is that Lucy didn't really like the show, so it's not like, oh, I worship you, and that's why I want to be with you. Like, I think that's when things would get a little difficult, which is why I don't think we'd ever do something like that.
I agree. Yeah, I think that it's a minefield. It's a little more complicated to navigate when you have that, it's kind of like a celebrity dating their fan, which is, it's there's a lot to explore there. Which would be interesting, but it's just not the story we wanted to tell for Slice of Life, and I think that idea of like worship of and not just worship, but like kind of the dark side of fandom of kind of feeling ownership of a public figure or of a character is something that we do plan to explore. Raven has very specific ideas about who Yuriko is and should be, and that's something that will come to a head at some point that the characters will have to talk through. I won't say much more than that, but I think it just because Raven and Yuriko aren't the lead couple doesn't mean that there aren't issues with super fan plus anime character come to life. There aren't facets of that we're not going to explore. That's something we're super excited for.
For sure. We got Mimi who says, what's been the biggest challenge for writing Slice of Life compared to like Father Like Daughter and Haunting? Is it a genre change or something else? Honestly, Slice of Life has been the easiest thing to write, if I'm being honest, compared to the other stories. Yeah, because it's shorter. There's not, me and Phil were exactly talking about this. It has a plot, but doesn't have a plot. So it's so much easier to write. It's like, there's not as much bogged down. Like with Father Like Daughter, you got to talk about the KGB. You got to have a nice twist. You got to have this, and plot has to move. Same thing for Haunting. So it's so much easier to write.
Yeah, it also just helps having a writing partner. We plot out. Every chapter we figure out together what needs to happen. What are the key beats we need to hit, and then we split up, and each of us like takes a chapter. And you could tell on the Webtoon by whoever's name is listed first in the writing credits who wrote this particular chapter, but we both have ownership of everything that goes out for Slice of Life, and we're each other's sounding boards. So if ever one of us gets stuck, we could always go to the other. And we also push each other. With Haunting, if I'm stuck on a script, I might walk away for like a couple of weeks until it comes back to me. But with Slice of Life, because we're both kind of relying on each other and pumping each other up, we don't really do that. We always kind of finish what we start with Slice of Life, and then it got to the point where we were like, okay, we have all these chapters in the can. Let's force ourselves to step away for a little bit, let the Webtoon premiere, let the art catch up a little bit, and then reconvene and write the next set of chapters. So,
and we're kind of getting there. We're slowly writing again, but we're so far ahead. It's just like, let's also see what the comments are. I mean, that's what's kind of fun about Webtoons. Like, we could see what you guys like, and I wouldn't say cater, but hear it.
Yeah. No, like we were saying before, one thing that the comments have been really vocal about is really liking the relationship between Lucy and Raven. So we were talking about that the other day about how like, oh yeah, like obviously that's always a big part of the story, but we should give them a chapter where it's just them, where Yuriko goes off to the side and we could just see them interact again, because once Yuriko's
we haven't had a sister, we don't actually have a sister chapter much. Sister chapter from what we've written.
Yeah, they interact plenty in all of our existing chapters, but I think seeing the comments has kind of been a nudge that we should give them a chapter just to themselves. Not just chapter one where before Yuriko shows up we get to see them interact, and we get to see them interact in all of the chapters, but something that really gives them both the spotlight in their relationship. So if there's some sorry.
No, you go. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
I was going to say, if you're a reader and there's something you want to see, you should, comment it. It's good for the writers to see what there's an interest in, because sometimes that reminds us like, oh yeah, we should fit this in sooner rather than later. Something that might have been on the roadmap already, but there's a lot of story to tell, even in a story that's a slice of life. There's a lot of beats you want to hit, and sometimes you have to really prioritize and you have to see what people want.
We got Tio asks, will Yuriko be using her action skills in real life at all? That's another thing we've been trying to write in a bit more. We've been very conscious about it. There's definitely a lot of jokes in it, but we want to have even more of that.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have, I think I could say like pretty much every other chapter, we have some action beats. A lot of them are mixed with comedic. It's Yuriko kind of misunderstanding a situation and defaulting to her action anime instincts, but it's something that we're conscious of. Yuriko's very skilled as a fighter and just like very strong, physically. So it's something we don't want ever to fade away from the story, even as she like becomes more of a real person, quote unquote.
We have a new typo act. Speaking of queer themes, what tropes do you dislike and should be avoided when it comes to representation of LGBTQ characters? That's a really good question. Again, the thing we were conscious to try to avoid was just, I guess, queer baiting. Because I don't want to call those other comics queer baiting, but kind of is, where it's just like you have like 100 chapters of a book and they're still not together. And you're just like, what are you doing? Why are you teasing us so much? So like it's a little bit too much of a tease. We're like, are they ever going to get together? Like, don't we deserve to see this couple together and like interact? And that's something we really wanted to do here and pace it correctly, but also not rush into anything either. I think we really try to balance it.
Yeah, I'd say queer baiting is definitely the biggest one. It's just and kind of like a subcategory to that is just like contrived conflict. I think when it comes to queer story, when it comes to romance in general, but I would say especially when it comes to like queer romance, there's a lot of like
conflict for the sake of conflict.
Conflict for the sake of conflict. I think any story, regardless of your genre, of course, needs conflict, and your characters need to have conflict. But it needs to naturally flow out of the characters and plot. So like that's something we're very conscious of. Yuriko and Lucy, as they get closer, they're not going to have a perfect relationship. They both have their own issues, and we want to make sure that any obstacles to them getting together, and then at a point when they eventually do or do not get together, like that doesn't mean everything's roses from then on. When you're when you have a partner, there's still plenty of conflict. There's things that you need to navigate both about yourself and your relationship. Just today, I won't say anything actually because I don't want to do any plot spoilers at all. But
you could tease if you want. I mean, I think Yeah, we texted each other
Very,
about a future plot line, and
very
it
light teasing.
got us excited.
Yeah, very light teasing. Is that idea that we were talking about before about Lucy on the surface seeming like she has everything kind of figured out. But like beneath the surface, not at all. She has a lot of doubt about who she is, but also, where she's going in life. And, one thing that we're interested to explore significantly down the line, like later down the line, is, Yuriko grows and changes. And like eventually, she basically learns how to be a real person, quote unquote, like her dream will be met. And what happens when Lucy has to confront that fact that that Yuriko, this person who just came into the world, kind of has a better sense of who she is than her. How does that affect her, Lucy, and their relationship? That's something we're excited to explore down the line. So, and it feels like a natural consequence of the story that we're telling, not just a conflict because they need to fight because this is a story.
For sure. Nothing beats the first kiss. We know. That's why we're very much pacing that well, we'll say.
Yep.
We won't just throw that at you willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Trying to build up to it.
Yeah, we are very excited to share that. That's truly one of the, if not the most important part of a romance story. But like Kat said, story doesn't end at the first kiss either. We want to see them together too. So we have some exciting stuff down the line.
For sure. Comic Toby, is the creator of Invincible and Walking Dead an inspiration to you? I don't know if directly, because this book is very different from The Walking Dead and Invincible. But I think he paved the way for indie comics. He walked for indie comics to run. So I don't think any of us can make the books we're making today if Walking Dead didn't exist. T asks, will they be investigating how Yuriko came to be in the real world? That's a really good question. But I don't know if we're going to answer. I don't know if we can answer.
I'll say that it's not the priority immediately. They question what the hell is happening, but no one has an answer. And, from there, it's just about reacting to Yuriko being real. But, there's a story behind Yuriko coming to the real world, something that, we are interested in exploring down the line. But, it's one thing that Kat and I, both as creators and as readers asked ourselves are like, what's the thing we're most interested in? And at the end of the day, it's not necessarily how Yuriko came to the real world. That's something that is important and something that we plan to explore. But, it's something that we were pretty comfortable putting on the back burner, letting the characters not know why she's there and not having a means of finding out immediately so that we can get to that once they have relationships defined, once those revelations will actually mean something to these characters because these characters mean something to each other. Would you agree?
100% agree. It's definitely the plot of the anime character coming to life will hopefully be explored in the future. It really all depends on how well our webtoon can do, because it is down the path. It's definitely not immediate that we're doing that, but it's definitely a conversation we've had, and we know how it happens, but we don't want to. Again, that wasn't the thing on the forefront. We want to explore these characters first, and that goes into T's other question. Also, investigating how to make sure she doesn't leave their world. Again, all things we've asked ourselves, but we are not going to explore right away. We do have a comment on Facebook from Andrew. Just a comment. I enjoy seeing the characters get together and then be together. I always dislike when the first kiss happens in the last page of the last chapter. Me too. And I think especially with queer romances, it happens so often. You only get the kiss. And I mean, I guess that happens with straight romances as well, where it's the ending is the big kiss and you're like, okay, now what? And some of my favorite stories is always either the sequel story or they got together.
Plus. Citrus Plus.
Citrus Plus, exactly. Like, I love the idea, like, oh, we got to see the first story, now we get to see them together, even though they do less together than they did in the regular Citrus books. But like, I even like lesbian novels and like queer novels that I've read. Like, I love the idea of like, oh, they were once together, and then like we get to see them together like 10 years later, or we get to see a sequel book of like, oh, they got together, let's see what they do after. I think those are always super interesting because I want to see the relationship. Like, we rarely get to see queer relationships and happy queer relationships where no one dies. Like, I just want to see them love each other, and that's something we're really mindful in this, and we're gonna see. You know, obviously it's gonna be a journey to get there, but that's not the end of their journey. They're gonna have a huge journey after that. That's the beginning of their journeys getting together.
That is life.
That is life, exactly. Slice of life. We do have Mimi who asks, or I guess a comment. I love to see Yuriko react to like Lucy at cheerleading practice or like at school. I think what's been really fun is to kind of figure out where Yuriko kind of fits in all that. And that's something we're definitely going to explore.
Yeah, I will say we take Yuriko to school at some point. And
We do.
you know, that's something we're really excited to get into. You know, that's something we have written. We haven't gotten art yet, but you know, that's part of the future. If Yuriko is going to be a real teenager, part of that is school, and you know, not just classes, but like learning where she fits in the ecosystem and with other students, and you know, social events like parties. You know, it's something that's very much on Kat's and my mind, and something that a big moment that we're building towards.
Yes. We got Mimi Axe. Also love that good gay panic over all crush panic when you realize you like a person moment. Can't wait to see how it goes for Lucy and Yuriko. It's gonna go for sure. It's been really fun plotting that out, and I will say they both have very different perspectives on it all. I think I could say that.
I think you could say that.
Yeah, very different perspectives. I will say gay panic, that word, is Lucy in a nutshell. She's panicking. But I think what's been really fun about Lucy is I think in general, you would think that story is like, oh, she doesn't want to be gay because like she's popular. And it's not that. So I hope we can tell you that it's a little bit more deeper. It's deeper than just like, oh, she just doesn't want to be gay. There's definitely a lot more to it, which is really fun to explore. Let me see if there's any. Okay, we got another $5. Thank you so much, New Type JB. That means a lot. So they ask, final Miss Marvel question. What kind of stories can be told if Kamala and Zoe became a couple, especially after Rakana Nakia is the one who called Cradle? What type of stories? It's so, I mean, I think they would have to really tell Kamala being queer, and so far we haven't really seen that, so that's why it's a little harder to tell this story and to answer your question on that one, because we haven't really seen Kamala's own queerness. But yeah, I would think they would have to define their friendship a bit. I love their friendship, but I don't think either of them have really shown interest in each other in that way. So I think they would have to start building that if that's a direction they wanted to go. All right. Ryan Treasures, do you plan on doing a review for the Loud House movie? I do. I might not be on the day, but I will have a review up. All right. TX, way down the line, but how do they explain Yuriko saying to their dad? Also,
not as down the line as you think.
Yeah, it's sooner than you think. There will be a whole chapter about it. Also, have you guys? Yeah, let's actually answer that first question, then we'll go to the second. Yeah, that's a lot of fun, honestly. What's cool is that their dad is a character.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say the chapter where we address that, you know, it's coming up. It's not too far in the distance. I'd say it's one of the most comedic chapters. You know, it's one that we had the most fun writing, and I'm really looking forward to that one. I think everybody has a good moment to shine, all of our main cast, as well as, you know, being the chapter where we meet Lucy and Raven's dad, who, you know, is a important recurring character in the story.
I'm just going to say there's this one line that's so out of context, so I think I could say this line, but Raven just say her boyfriend's dead.
Yeah, grow up. Slight spoilers, but Lucy and Raven's dad, Simon, is trying to get to know Yuriko, and he asks if she's dating anyone, and Raven just blurts out, "Oh, her boyfriend's dead." And there's a great awkward silence after that. We're really looking forward to that chapter.
Yeah, Raven's got a lot of time to shine in that one. Also, T-Ags, have you guys thought of Lucy and Yuriko getting thrown into Yuriko's world at all? No, we actually haven't thought about it, but I guess say never say never. It's definitely not in the current landscape, I would say.
Yeah, I think at one point I did mention to you it would be cool to put Lucy in the anime, but that was always a what if. I don't think that, like you said, I don't think that's something that's in the cards right now. But if Slice of Life does well and we keep telling story, I'd say never say never. I think there's a lot of interesting directions that you could take this particular story, and I think this is the kind of story that can be told forever, because it's just about living life and seeing how your life changes, and it's a big way your life could change if you get thrown inside of an anime. So
it is. I mean, Yuriko's life changed a lot being thrown into the real world. So CO397X, hey guys, did you ever discuss doing more comics together? Every day, yeah. We literally looked up the top 3 novel genres, and we're like, interesting.
It was a joke. We sat down, we were like, what are the most popular novels? And that'll be our next comic. Then most popular novel genres, and that'll be our next comic. And then we did actually come up with an idea we really like. So that might be something, that might be our next project that we tackle. But we'll see. We got a lot in the can right now. We just did our crossover between Like Father, Like Daughter, and Haunting. So we're excited to print that and get that to everyone who supported the Kickstarter. We have Slice of Life. By Visibility is Kat's project, but I'm the assistant editor on it. We're really excited to get that out there. And then we have lots of ideas for the future. So definitely expect to see more comics from both of us, individually and collectively.
Yeah, that's definitely been our big battle plan, is that we obviously still want to do individual comics, but we also want to tell more stories together. So it'll definitely be a shared effort in that regard as we figure out our plans for 2022. I'm sure there'll be more comics to tell.
And onward.
And onward, exactly. Mimi said, so if Yuriko will be staying at the house, does that mean we're getting and they were roommates? I guess we could tease that Yuriko will not be staying in Lucy's room.
That would be a touch inappropriate, but
yeah.
But she will be staying in the house, and she won't be staying in Lucy's room. But they're roommates in a sense, and that they're living in the same house.
They are living in the same house, so we will see that. But yeah, not the same room, not yet. T says, you think your next collab would be another comic book or another webtoon? That's tough, man. I don't know, honestly. I think it could go either or. We've been talking about Webtoon and what could be cool for Webtoon. But I think right now we're really just focusing on getting Slice of Life out there. So I think if it's something in the immediate future, I feel like it'd be a comic, just because the Webtoon's kind of taken over our lives. But if Slice of Life kind of moves on its own, maybe. I don't know. Yeah,
that's the basic answer is we'll see. I think we're very comfortable in the traditional comics space. We know how, because comics are an investment. They're something that they're your babies. You love your comics, but they're also an investment. They're something you sink a lot of money and time into. Where we've successfully, gotten the return on our investment in our traditional comics, we're still kind of developing with the Webtoon. Figuring out what does that model look like, as a business. If it works out really well for Slice of Life, then you could definitely expect us to dip our toes even further into Webtoon. And we keep saying Webtoon, but we also mean, Tapas and just any other web comic, medium, anywhere else you can post web comics.
And traditional comics, because that's where we know we're successful. So again, we're also making a Kickstarter for this. So we're making it a Webtoon. We're trying to look for success there. We want to make this a Webtoon, but it's not, taking anything away that this will be a traditional comic as well. Which kind of goes into Comic Toby's question. Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur, artist, model? Definitely not that third one. Influencer, all of that, right? Storyteller, entertainer. Honestly, out of all those, I would say an entrepreneur out of all those words.
Yeah, I would say entrepreneur and storyteller, are the big two. And entertainer, I guess. I think you need to be business savvy, you need to be entrepreneurial to, have a successful comic, because no one's going to read. You could have the best comic in the world, but no one's going to read it if you don't put it out there for people to find. There's such a wealth of content out there. Kat and I were both very familiar with Webtoon before we launched Slice of Life, but just in the past month or two, I've read so many web comics. There's so much great content out there, and just if you could be the best storyteller ever, but if you don't know how to promote your comic, no one's going to read it. So I think they're kind of hand in hand, and I think all of them except model, I would say probably.
Yeah, I don't think either of us are trying to look to be a model, but
not yet. We'll see. When we make the big money, maybe we'll get some plastic surgery, and then we can be
get a photographer to take our shots.
I'll get really good lighting.
We have, very interestingly enough, the same question on two different platforms. I'll read both comments. Ryan Treasure says, do you plan on going to any conventions this year? I think that I remember you went to Baltimore Comic-Con, but I'm not sure if you're returning this year or not. And then Andrew asks, what are your plans for conventions in 2021 and 2022?
Good synergy, guys.
Right. Are you sure you're not the same person? No, we have a ton of Comic-Cons. We did our first Comic-Con last weekend. We did CradleCon in Long Island, and we did the prelude show to Big Apple Comic-Con on that Saturday. This weekend we'll be at Tropicon in Long Island, and
we'll be there on Saturday this weekend.
We'll be there on Saturday. I'm going to look at my calendar to see what other ones we got planned.
We have Eternal Con coming up. I think that's August 7th and 8th, also in Long Island. On Free Comic Book Day, we'll be at JHU, the comic store in Staten Island. And then we have TropicCon again, the one we're doing Saturday. We're also doing Sunday, August 15th, I think it is. Sunday, August 15th. We have Boston Comic-Con in September. I think that's the 3rd or so.
I don't know how you're remembering this off from the top of your head. Yeah, it's the 3rd to the 5th.
I'm really good with dates for some reason. And then Baltimore, we have in October. I don't remember the date for Baltimore. I think it's 9th.
We also have Big Apple Con, 25th to the 26th for September.
I knew I'd forget one.
Baltimore is the 22nd to the 24th. And we might do C2E2. We actually we put our name in the hat for that one. So we might do that. If there's any conventions you guys want us to be at, let us know. We obviously do a lot.
Our photographer is in the comments from Big Apple Con this weekend.
As your photographer at the recent con, I confirm you're both models.
I guess we check all the boxes.
We do, man. Who knew? I guess we are models. We do only take if you want us to be in a picture, it's at least $500, guys. At least.
I took some great pictures of Kat sleeping in the booth. We had a good time.
We did. It was a lot of fun. We keep ourselves entertained. But yeah, no, we're doing a lot of Comic-Cons. We're super excited for all of them. Free Comic Book Day. We're doing a signing at JHU. That's mind blowing. We're so excited for that. I've literally been shopping at JHU for over a decade. So more. I
remember seeing like father like daughter behind the desk at JHU before we became like super close friends. So it's cool. It's surreal.
Yeah, full circle for sure. And that's on Free Comic Book Day, which is, busiest day at a comic book store. With Phil Scruff, it's $600. Honestly, yeah, you could definitely raise that for sure. Ryan says, very cool. I've been dedicated fan of your channel since 2017 when you first started doing Loud House videos. Hopefully I can get to meet you at Baltimore Comic-Con. Yeah, hopefully. That'd be awesome. Thank you for supporting. Anything else we wanted to tackle before we start wrapping up?
Do you want to tease what's coming up in Slice of Life next week as we get into chapter 2?
Wouldn't it be funny if we just change the title to Slice of Wife?
That's the sequel series. That's when they already get married.
Teasing. It's my chapter next. So you read Phil's chapter first, even though we plotted it all together. And honestly, it really is both our chapters. I wrote the dialogue for chapter 2, and this has been this was like the most focused chapter because it's literally Lucy and Yuriko meeting for the first time. And I think we answer a lot of your questions in the regard of like how Yuriko will feel when she comes to life and how the sisters will feel to that. It's really a reaction issue. We kind of dig into some deeper stuff in this issue as well, what this means for life in general. And it's really the start of Yuriko's journey in figuring herself out, but I guess Lucy's journey as well. So yeah, that's kind of what's coming up with chapter 2. We already teased the mall chapter we're gonna have, and then chapter 4 is like our cliffhanger because we're gonna take like a month hiatus for the Kickstarter. So we have a pretty big cliffhanger for chapter 4.
Yeah, and chapter 2, it'll release in installments over the course of 3 weeks, starting on Monday. But you can read the full chapter right now on our Patreon for just $2 if you support, and you'll always have early access to future chapters as well. So, if you want to get ahead, go ahead and check out the Patreon. Really looking forward to it. We have a lot of exciting stuff coming down the road for Slice of Life, and it's been a roller coaster.
For sure. And then Comics Toby says, it was my belief you lived in Southern California. Well, I'm glad my accent didn't
betray you.
Betray me on that one. I am from New York. We're both from New York. So no California here. But I've been to California, if that helps anything. That helps the scenario. But that's it for us, guys. Thank you so much for, tagging along, asking questions. We will be doing more Q&As on our Patreon. We'll see if we'll probably do another Q&A when the Kickstarter goes live. Yeah. So we'll do more like Kickstarter Q&As, but I don't know if we do like Webtoon Q&As unless it's just the Patreon. So please go check out our Patreon. I'll put a link so you can go check it out. It really helps us make this comic, honestly, is by supporting the Patreon. So, and then we'll post a webcomic one more time. You guys can go check that out. And that is it from us. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks
Bye,
for all the
guys.
great questions.